Start? Freeze?
Yeah,
Okay.
and then start.
All right. Okay. Hi, everybody. So this is my friend Kate here. She's coming to visit me from Canada.
Hello.
And Kate has worked a lot in the hospitality and food industry. And unfortunately, she's not able to come into the class and talk to us. But we thought we'd make a video and just talk about some of her experiences and some things that might interest you. So yeah, I'm gonna get Kate to tell me about some of the places that you've been at. So where are some of the places that you've worked at?
Well, I've been, I guess, working in the hospitality industry for the past several years. So I've worked at 3 different provinces in Canada as well as 1 territory, I guess. And that was for the summertime. In between my university years. And then I also worked abroad in Europe on a yacht as a private stewardess. And I was living in Spain for 2 months, and then we were based in Montenegro, but I also got to travel to Croatia and France and Italy and Monaco. And just kind of all around the Med, so yes.
And for the places that you worked in Canada, that was all for the same company between those 3 provinces and the territory?
I worked for Fairmont Hotel and Resorts in Alberta, Canada, as well as New Brunswick, Canada, which is 2 of our a West Coast province and an East Coast province. And then in the Yukon, which is up north in Canada, I worked for a hotel chain called Westmark. And in British Columbia, which is a western province, I worked at a resort, a ski and snowboard resort called Panorama.
Cool.
And that was like its own kind of company.
That's really cool, actually. I didn't know that. And for the jobs at the Fairmont hotels, did you, say after having worked at one, did you then use your contacts or your connections with the company to help find another job? Or did they recognize your previous experience?
I think that's what I kind of did. It was the first summer I worked in, the first summer I worked in the Yukon, but after that, I was working in Alberta in Lake Louise, which is this very small town in Alberta, and that was through the Fairmont. And then the following summer, I was able to get another job with Fairmont because of my experience, and then because of the fact that I've already worked for Fairmont before. They liked that, obviously. I think that was easier to get a job that way. And then I just wanted to try working for a different company, so after those 2 summers at Fairmont, I went back or went to another company out west in British Columbia.
Okay. And for the jobs that you did on the yachts as a private stewardess here in Europe in the Mediterranean, how did you find those positions?
That was very much a kind of a fluke. I fell into that because I had a family friend that was also Canadian. Her and her husband, they worked on private yachts, and they were living in Spain, in Palma de Mallorca, and they had been doing it for 20-odd years. So they had encouraged me because they knew I liked traveling, and my lifestyle was I guess kind of free-spirited. So they encouraged me to come to Mallorca and do my yacht training, yacht certification, and to find work on a yacht, and then from there I could travel around. So that's how I fell into that. But it's not very popular for Canadians to get into that.
I think there's more Europeans that tend to do it. Like you've met a lot of people from Germany, you said, that were, and other countries in Europe that had studied or worked in hospitality and now we're in the Mediterranean.
Yeah, and a lot of British, tons of British people, lots of Australians, because they're very, like, kind of, they're an island, so they do a lot of boating down there, a lot of sailing, so they heard about it too. So a lot of Australians are doing that in Europe, and a lot of New Zealanders, and tons of British people, but all...
And South Africans too, you met South Africans.
Many South Africans.
Yeah.
And a lot of people from Europe as well. I had an Austrian captain, and I worked with a deckhand who was from Germany as well.
And I believe too, kind of within your industry in terms of hospitality, you also worked for a private family in Canada on their mansion.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, right. This was the summer I visited Kate in an area called Muskoka, and they had their own island with a bunch of their own private houses or cottages.
Yeah, that was, so I was a stewardess for this family in Muskoka, which I completely forgot about. That's 2 hours north of Toronto, where I'm from Toronto. So I found that job through yachting, though, through a yachting website, which was based in Mallorca.
Mm-hmm.
This crew agency that I just kind of am always double checking just to see all the job postings. You can see them all online, and I saw this one that was working for a stewardess land-based position in Toronto, and I was in Canada at the time, so I applied for that, and I worked for a family, and that was different because it was land-based, but it was just mostly serving, and family that had parties all the time, constantly people, friends over, so it was just serving and lots of drinks, and yeah, so that was good as well.
And this family, Kate was telling me, their cook came in from Berlin. They would always fly him into Canada just to cook for them.
He was working on getting his permanent residency in Canada.
Yeah, it's his neighbors.
Yeah, he was living in Berlin for the past 4 years. So yeah, they had worked with him for like 2 years. So I believe he's in Canada now. Permanent. I believe he's got his permanent resident status, so he's still working for them. But yeah, they were just flying him in and out of Berlin when they needed him.
Crazy. And generally, when you work abroad or travel somewhere really far, even within the same country to work, what are some things that you always have on hand? Do you always have certain copies of resumes or international documents that you'll always have to make the application process easier, or?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I have everything on my laptop, but I definitely have, I have yachting certificates that I guess I always have with me, and then just copies of passport and, kind of all my documents that I need. But everything is on my computer, and I have a separate resumes. I don't know if you call them resumes.
Yeah, resumes, yeah.
Resumes for...
CVs, yeah.
Yeah, CVs, that's what I call them. So separate CV for yachting, and separate CV for hospitality, and then an academic CV. So it's kind of just, I've got all that.
And what are, so of the general experiences, what are some of your favorite things from working in this industry that you have, going abroad or other parts of Canada, which is itself huge, and working in different resorts? What are some of your favorite things doing that or experiences?
Well, I think hospitality is a great industry to get into if you enjoy meeting new people, because you will definitely meet a lot of new people all the time, and it's great for people who love to travel, such as myself. It gives you a chance to experience life and I guess culture outside of what you know as home. Even going from province to province in Canada, it just gave me a little glimpse of what life is like in every province, and then I got to meet people, some of the people I'm still friends with today. So I've made good relationships, and traveling abroad was amazing. Living abroad was it's been a dream of mine to live in Europe for as long as I can remember, and I got to live in Europe for about a year. So that was definitely a dream come true. So yeah, hospitality has been a great way for me to kind of see the world and meet new people and enjoy new experiences.
I know too, you have friends all over the world too. So.
Such as yourself.
But yeah, and then are there any disadvantages generally to when you work abroad?
The only thing...
Or you didn't like?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing is sometimes, obviously you miss home and you're missing out on things at home, but at the same time, you're just experiencing so much, so it's hard at times. You'll be like, oh, I missed so-and-so's birthday, wedding, just kind of events in your town that are important to you, but it's definitely, so that's a little bit of a disadvantage, but you can't always have everything, It's impossible, and I would rather be abroad and be learning rather than be at home where everything is the same all the time. What else? And yeah, it's different. I definitely think Canadians, everyone's different, so it's different working with all Canadians. When I was at home in Canada traveling around, that would be different. but when you come abroad, and I was working with people on the yacht from all different nationalities, and like that's really different as well because people communicate in different ways and just kind of things that are maybe appropriate in Canada may be inappropriate way to act around people, you know, that are European. It just kind of, it depends. It was a little bit harder, I think, when I first came to Europe, but I definitely feel a lot more comfortable now.
Right. Like there's different expectations that the clients have or the customers or coworkers have, bosses have.
Yeah, exactly.
And adjusting to that, I think it could be difficult, but at the same time, it's part of the learning experience.
Exactly. So it's like I learned a lot, which is great. When I was working on one of the yachts, the family who owned the yacht, they were Russians. So that was the first time I actually was working with Russians. Got to, you know, be really close with them. In their English, they didn't really speak English, so it was kind of intimidating, like, to communicate, because you just knew, like, the conversation wasn't going to be constantly flowing because their English was very limited. And just kind of what they wanted was just, it was just kind of, you have to always be ready for, like, the unexpected, because it was literally, like, things were changing every 2 seconds, and you had to be kind of okay with that, or, like, ready to go. And, yeah, so that was kind of a challenge, I guess, as well.
Right. And I guess then, lastly, that kind of fits in then to my question, what are some general personality traits or skills that somebody should have or work on if they wanted to have experiences abroad? Like, what's required, I guess?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say, obviously, like, to be friendly and outgoing is very important in the hospitality industry. But even if you aren't naturally friendly or outgoing, it's definitely something you can work on. I mean, I definitely didn't, you know, I wasn't 18 years old and then moved abroad. I started slowly by going away each summer and kind of getting comfortable that way. And it wasn't until years later that I decided to move abroad, you know. And so I've definitely been working on these skills and just being friendly and outgoing, because I feel like that doesn't really even come, maybe the outgoingness doesn't come naturally to me, but kind of when I'm in my hospitality server role, I really just like kind of push myself to be that way. And what else was I thinking? Yeah, being flexible is definitely important. Like I said, things change all the time in the hospitality industry, and like maybe 1 second you think you're doing this, and the next second the customer or guest will change and they want something else. And I think you just need to kind of be able to work with people, and I mean, you are there. Your goal is to make sure the customer or guest, you know, is happy, is pleased with their experience. So you're kind of always doing whatever you can to ensure that. So yeah. And maybe working with, like, it's important, I guess, to enjoy working with people rather than working by yourself, because you're just constantly going to be surrounded by people. Right.
So yeah, being good, like working in teams with people. Yeah,
makes
sense. Yeah.
If you like to work, I mean, and I like working in teams. Like, that's the kind of working environment I like. I would prefer something like that. And it's a good way to get to know a lot of people as well. So that's definitely. Yeah, that's definitely what hospitality is like.
Cool, yeah. Well, thanks for speaking with us or talking with me. Yeah, I hope everybody here finds it interesting, and
hope you can understand me
yeah.
and my accent.
We'll go over anything that we don't understand. But yeah, thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. And off.